Podcast. 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 Oh yeah! Jason Wygant here, Racer X Exhaust Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Yoshimura. 63 years of research and development making great four-stroke exhaust systems. Check them out for any kind of bike that you ride. Yoshimura, unsurpassed quality, service, and development. It's the brand you want for your dirt bike, ATV, or street exhaust. Check them out, yoshimura-rd.com. Now, speaking of RD, today's podcast guest is RD, not Roger DeCoster, the other one, the one DeCoster discovered, RD Jr., Ryan Dungey. Awesome for Ryan to give us time here. I know that he would apparently have a lot of time on his hands because he is retired, but as my dad will tell you, anyone who is retired suddenly finds themselves busier than ever. I just hope that for Ryan that means doing more than just sitting there and watching TV for 18 hours a day and then sleeping a little bit. My dad still sets his alarm to wake up in the morning and watch more TV. Please, Ryan, do more than that. Now, Ryan has been at most of the races this year. It leaves us suspicious that he is working on something. He won't really say what he's doing, why he's there. Any time we try to mention, oh, you're working with the riders, he kind of deflects that. He told me in Atlanta that he just likes going to the stadiums. Sure. Yeah, that's why you're getting on a plane every Friday, I'm sure. Anyway, in this hour-long interview with the Dunge, he does allude to a project that he does have in the works. Probably see that maybe late summer. And one project we know that he's working on right now, because he's been doing it for years, is his charitable efforts with St. Jude. That is the hospital for kids that basically pays for kids to have cancer treatment. If your child has cancer, the hospital will not only defray the medical cost, they will also provide housing for the parents who are going to obviously need to live in that area for a long time. So that's very expensive. Ryan has raised a lot of money for St. Jude's through his Minnesota Major charity ride, which always takes place the Sunday after the Millville National. He even used some of the proceeds from that Wheaties box cover he had. That was his charity of choice, St. Jude's. And now Supercross in general has gotten on board, and they've got a lot of big projects in store for the Minneapolis race coming up soon, including St. Jude's charity t-shirt, which literally has the words, "This shirt saves lives." And they got pretty much every single Supercross rider and personality in the pits to do a photo shoot with those shirts on, and they're all going to pump it out on their social media channels as well as a text to donate to St. Jude's campaign. It'll all take place leading up to and during that Minneapolis Supercross. So if you follow your favorite riders or Supercross Live, Monster Energy Supercross on social media, you'll get all the information you need on that. Okay, so let's start our conversation with Ryan Dungey with those charitable efforts. Here's an update on his Minnesota Major coming up this summer, although it's actually moving. It will not be the weekend of the Millville National any longer. Why? Because he's found that Saturday might actually get more entrants, which results in more donations. So we'll start our conversation there, and then we'll talk about pretty much every single thing you can think you'd ever want to ask Ryan Dungey.
So we've moved it to a Saturday, which is July 28th, and that's the reasoning for that was just, trying to get more people involved. I mean, Sunday is, we kind of feel like it's a day for everybody wants to chill. Everybody wants to get ready for work. And although we've had great turnout and, great support from people, I think, by doing it like this, we can maybe get some people when their schedule's a little more free and they're looking to get out and do something. So, obviously we have to, do all the, spreading the word and marketing it good, but we got a good plan for that as well. So hopefully we don't lose the motocross community, but gain other people as well in this movement.
Yeah, that's the thing. It actually is a real fundraiser. It's cool for the industry people to be able to go for a jog Sunday and kind of see you in your own backyard and out of your element away from the track. But the idea is to get as many regular people as possible to raise some money.
I know. And that's all right. That's the thing. It's great where, for me in the motocross world, we know a lot of people and it's kind of it's been really impressive to see, my partners like KTM and Fox and Red Bull, and there's been a lot of people getting behind it. So it's kind of it was a tough call. It's like, okay, do we keep it, or do we try to, in hopes to gain more people for a bigger reason, So it's kind of nice that we haven't really lost our main partners in it, so that's good. But that's the thing. It's kind of a trial year. We'll see how it goes. So hoping for good news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is Minnesota officially where you live now? Is the Florida house gone? Did you sell it? Are you completely out of there?
Yeah, the Florida house is gone.
You sold it.
We
out.
are. Yes. Yeah. I mean, So for me and Lindsay, we pretty much made Minnesota home base. We ended up kind of selling our places we had, and this is kind of the only spot we have as of now. I think for me, it's pretty central in the country. I can kind of travel to and from, which is easy. Everything's about 2-3 hours, the length as far as the longest distance. But just kind of branching from here. And if we have to do something somewhere else, then we're definitely open to it. We just kind of wanted to. Our families are here, and we look forward to starting other parts of our life too. So just kind of being able to kind of regroup and move on to what's next.
Bro, look, man, I have a feeling you're kind of like me. I like to save my money. I don't like to waste my money. Next December, January or so, when it is freezing in Minneapolis or Minnesota, are you going to say, having that Florida house would be nice, and if I got to go buy another one, now I got to pay movers and closing costs and do all this stuff a second time? Are you sure you're not going to regret this come winter 2019 and say, the Florida house would have been nice right around now?
Well, I think I've already gone through that. I mean, 2018. 2018 was pretty cold. As far as the winter goes, but it was a good eye opener. I think, for me, I hadn't been here in 12 years, and so I kind of forgot a lot of things. I've learned a lot of things about myself, but I don't regret any of it. I think it's okay. Being down in Florida, there wasn't really much down there either for me to kind of continue to. But, not to say Florida's out of the picture or California's out of the picture. I mean, me and Lindsay, we live a pretty conservative life. It's not like when racing ended, we couldn't maintain the lifestyle we lived. So for us, we just kind of kept it simple here in Minnesota. But, we also kept in mind that, okay, if we need to buy something somewhere else, then, or rent for that matter, it would be, we could just, do something completely new there. We wouldn't have to really move everything. So we've definitely looked at the whole picture multiple times. So we're trying to, we only know so much, but we're trying to keep ahead of the game, I guess.
You're not going to go all Jason Anderson and have like 19 people renting every single room at like 9 different houses? Not going there?
Oh, no. Me and him have talked about that. Everybody's different, I guess, but no, we're not going that route.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't know how he keeps track of all this. He must have some Excel spreadsheets somewhere. It's going to be impressive. Yeah. Explain this. I've been down in that general Florida neighborhood where like everyone lives in about a mile and a half of each other. How the heck did you end up living practically across the street from Ken Roxon at one point? How did you know this? Did you not? Did you buy the house, move in, and just go, oh no, there he is? Did you know this going in?
Oh yeah, I mean, when I first went down there, I was living up in Tallahassee, and my first agreement with Eldon was like, we were going to work long distance. That was our whole deal. Like, I was like, look, I'm not moving down to Orlando. I spent a year down there when I was riding with James. I didn't like it, and I'm going to stay here. Well, fast forward, this was in the summertime I started working with him, but then fast forward now it's December. I went down there for 1 week just to it was like right before Christmas, kind of just so he could see where we're at. We did some testing, with the physical testing with the body and all that, and some riding with the guys. But like when I was down there, I was like right away, I'm like, you know what? I need to be here. I really need to be more one-on-one with Eldon. I saw the just for me, the way it was better for me. So when I moved home, we drove back up to Tallahassee, and I'm already convinced in my head we're moving down there, but we're ready to go out to the West Coast, so we don't have time to move or anything. So basically, right after the West Coast swing, everything worked out where I just pretty much We flew into Tallahassee, drove down to Orlando, and not knowing that was the last time I was ever going to see that house, because Lindsay's the actual one who drove back to Tallahassee and got the moving company to move everything, and we sold it to a friend we knew. And yeah, so it all happened so quick, but, yeah, well, I guess I'm getting off topic, but when I moved down there, I tried to look everywhere but that neighborhood, and not to say I didn't like Ken. I was just like, man, if I move in this neighborhood, he's going to be like, what the heck are you doing, But
yeah, it's understandable. It's understandable.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, I want to be by the lake, That'd be kind of cool. There's a nice view. Well, there was just nothing that looked appealing to us. So we saw the neighborhood. It was a nice house, and it was brand new, and it was just a one-level deal and easy to take care of. And I was like, you know what? We're going to be neighbors, Ken. So he eventually moved, but he did rent out that house, and it was a little weird, when we're riding, it's for sure it's kind of hard to separate that, but I always felt like we had a good understanding of each other and respect, so it never got too weird at all.
Did you literally see each other, like, not all the time, but was there like a random lawn mowing, going out to the mailbox, washing a car, seeing him, hey, there's my neighbor? Did that actually happen?
Yeah. Pretty much every scenario, whether I was heading out on a bike ride and he was going to the track and I'm coming back from the track, and it was it was that awkward, like, do I wave? What do I do,
I feel like back then, so this was, early, I guess 3 years ago, really, and back then it was, at least we on the outside were like, oh man, there's maybe a rivalry brewing between these two. But then last year I hung out with Kenny at his house talking about his arm injury, and he named you specifically as the one guy that he really got close to during his whole injury thing last year. And now it sounds like you guys have got really tight. I don't know if that's the case now, but at least last year when you were still racing and still living there, it seemed like you actually built up quite a relationship.
Yeah, we have. I think Kenny is, in the past, there was stuff that he said, but like, I know with Ken, like, he's so motivated that he almost can't contain it sometimes, that it just like, it spills out, which isn't a bad thing. He's just really hungry to do good. And, so being able to separate the racing from that, and obviously what he went through last year, it was like, none of us, everybody was like, is he going to come back? So, as a rider, knowing kind of what it would be like to be in that position, my only thing was like, racing is, being competitors at this, it's not even like a topic. It's like, dude, how are you doing? You go, okay, like, what are you going through? And so I tried to reach out and do my best, and, he's got a good team of people around him, but it was cool. We got to chit chat and talk, and then I kind of stepped away from racing, or retired, I guess, but he, so that I think kind of opened up for things to get a little bit better. And then we were just down in Florida last week, and, he works with Peter Park, and Peter sends me over some workouts, like as far as like the gym and some training. So we've got to become good friends, and I've gotten to become good friends with his trainer. And then, so when I went down there, he's got a full gym, and he was kind of teaching me a few things in the gym and stuff like that. The guy is unbelievably strong. So it was cool. Got to see his whole place, his setup, and just spend we don't get to hang out much, but when we do, it's good. It's fun. So.
Wait, this is so weird. So Peter Park, his trainer, now you're like not working with him per se, but you have a relationship with him now. It's so weird.
Yeah. I've known Peter since, before Ken started work with him. This dates all the way back into 2010. We did a ride with Lance, because Lance had this Hope Rides Again, and we went to Austin for the Livestrong Foundation, being an ambassador with that when I was younger, and then I did a ride, and then I was talking to Lance, and Lance says, you need to reach out to this guy. So Peter for me, I knew Peter, we've chatted, we never did work together, but, he was always super kind and generous with his time with me, and just a good all around guy, and he works with a lot of top guys. Super nice guy. First class. So
that's so weird, because again, on the outside, this is what myself and the guys at Baker's always like to joke. I always say, people have been saying. It's never me. I'm reporting what people have been saying. people are always saying, like, oh, so there's the rivalry. Like, Roxon used to work with Eldon. Now he's got Peter Park. Park and Eldon must hate each other. Dungey must hate Park. Park must hate Dungey because they're on opposite sides and they're trying to beat each other. I'm shocked to hear that everybody actually gets along. Like, you didn't hate any of these people while you were essentially battling them.
No, I mean, I was thinking the other day, somebody was asking me, man, you must have been super competitive. And, I'm not really a competitive guy, even though I did a competitive sport. I was just more like, I just always wanted to give my best. And like, whether I was in second, obviously the goal is always to get to the front and win. Like, but when the gate dropped, I was never like, some guys say, you must have been foaming at the mouth. And I'm like, dude, I wasn't. I was like, how am I going to get off this gate? How am I going to get around the track the fastest? And how am I going to get to the checkered flag the first guy? And, after 20 minutes now. So that was the challenge. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to smash that guy. I mean, they challenged me because they, obviously they're good racers, good competitors, but I don't know. I was like, man, is something wrong with me? Like, but anyway,
Is it kind of like this? Like, look, if you were in a regular endurance sport, like you were running a marathon or a bicycle race, and you flattened out in the last 2 miles, you would say, well, I need to get stronger, I need to get in better shape, I need to go faster. And you're not even really thinking about what the other guys running that marathon are doing. Is it kind of like that? Like, it's just on me to do my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think mentally it's important to be strong because obviously what a lot of people don't know is like the mental toughness will also create like a calmness to you. And if, like let's say if you're sitting on the line and your heart rate's 100 versus being really nervous, your heart rate's 120, you're already exerting all this energy and then your heart rate's going to be higher on the track. And it's just like with mental strength comes also physical, strength as well. Like you can get more out of your performance being mentally stronger. So I've been on both sides of the deal. Like I felt like I worked with some guys, like when we were with Johnny O and some great guys. I mean, the training and everything was awesome. But I was the fittest guy, but it didn't matter how fit I was because I was so mentally not tough. And then on the other flip side, like my later years when I got to work with Eldon, he was a great mentor to me and a great friend. And so being able to, he really helped me with that mental strength and that mental toughness. And then maybe, I don't want to say, physically, I think we were in good shape, but mentally really gave me that edge, especially like, at the level we were at with the 450 guys, everybody's so close. I felt like that was the last bit. And you were touching on trainers and people, like what I learned through it, and I had to go through it to learn it. I know that, but there's no particular program that is better than anybody. You can wear yourself out, of course. I mean, you can overtrain, but if you're doing the minimum or just I guess that perfect routine or a good amount where you're not leaving yourself just ruined, it still is fine. In the end, it's the mental strength that's going to come through, and it's believing in yourself, So I think everybody's doing the work. Maybe they're doing it different, but that last little bit is just, it's that mental strength and your approach and your perspective. I mean, that's my opinion. But,
it's not like you're saying anyone on the gate at that level is in 30% better shape than anybody else on the gate. You're all in pretty darn close physically, probably.
Yeah. I mean, you got guys who do 2-hour rides every week and hour ride every morning and then 30 minutes every morning. I mean, and the one thing that gets underlooked, I feel, in our sport is that each rider compares themselves to one another. But I've learned a lot now since I've quit racing that everybody's body type is different. Some people can handle a big volume. Some people can't. Mm-hmm. And the people who can need to do a big volume. The people who can't don't need to do a big volume because you just thrash yourself. And I think that's something that needs to be maybe addressed more and the riders become more aware of. And I think it is. You got fast twitch and slow twitch and all these things. So it's been quite interesting that, the stuff I've been able to learn, and it's kind of like, now it makes sense,
Well, I was wondering that about you because we know that you were the kind of guy that actually liked to work out. I mean, some riders I always feel do it because that's part of the job. They're required to. But if they didn't have to do it for a living, they would, they wouldn't touch it. And then other people obviously pay for a gym membership and go 7 days a week for fun. So now that you don't have to, but it also means you have some freedom here. You can train in any direction you want. It doesn't have to be bike specific. Are you into that? Are you looking at like, I want to try this, I want to try that? It would seem to me like you would be the guy who would take advantage of the time you have now to really do even more and learn more, because now you have freedom. Yeah,
I mean, all honesty, I was just thinking that, like, since I retired, even the week I hate even using the word retired.
Okay.
But after the announcement and Vegas, let's just say Vegas, which was we raced Saturday, Sunday. I gave them my decision, and then I didn't even miss a day. Like, I trained, I kept training through the week because I enjoyed that, and that was productive to my morning. So now you kind of hit it on the nail. Just being able to not training so specifically for one thing, I can let my mind relax a little bit, not worry about my heart rate zones, and be able to do different things. And whether it's in the gym or I still do a lot of the endurance cardio stuff. So I enjoyed that, and I still continue that. I mean, I haven't really. I think the most days I've missed was like maybe 3 days, and that's kind of it. And it's not because I'm stressing; it's just because I enjoy it. So.
Are there any other things you're thinking of doing at some point? Like, I could try a road race or a triathlon, or I don't even know. Have you kicked that around?
Yeah, for me, I definitely want to enter into some races, whether it be probably mainly running and cycling. I do have the gym stuff would just be able to back that, but I really want to get into a few things, kind of some longer distance stuff, whether it's the mountain biking or road biking or even running. I think it's something like that to prepare for. I'm kind of still putting it all together at the moment, but aside from that, we've been still doing stuff within the industry and the sport, and some commentating at the races and testing with the team, KTM and stuff. So I'm still trying to contribute and help the guys, and figured if I can't win, then I help the guys who are racing, try to help them win now. But we got another project that's kind of coming together, which will probably be another couple months. We'll come out with it. It's what the gist of it. It's called the Mind Champion, and just being able to share that knowledge and experience, the things and the habits and the disciplines that I felt really got me to where I am there, what it took to get to that level where I was in Supercross and racing dirt bikes and just life in general. So being able to package that and share that with the industry or even outside, and just mainly the kids coming up. I really want to be able to. I feel like our sport has done a really good job, but I feel like where it has lacked is building up these racers and kids, and they're being built up to win a race and a championship where there's so much more to life than that, and just being able to give them perspective and meaning and purpose, so that's kind of, the next really, project I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I mean, you've been at the races almost every one this year, and you're not like putting a sign up saying, "Hey, ask me why I'm here." I can tell that you're kind of just there, and I don't think you're like looking to do full tell-all interviews of what your plan is. But I'm like, he's got to be here. He's got to be planning something. So you are planning something. Yeah. We know this much.
Yes. It just takes time,
Right. One of the things that I would think you would wrestle with, I've heard this from any rider really that's at your level, and I even crazy enough say it about myself, like, hey, my goal was to always work in the motocross industry, so now I'm here, I'm doing it, and your goal is to be a racer, and then you do it, and you even achieve all those dreams. And you would think if you told 8-year-old Ryan Dungey, I am leading the Supercross points when I'm 25 years old, 8-year-old Ryan Dungey would be like, oh my God, I'd be the happiest person in the world. That's all I want. That's all I could ever possibly ask for. That's great. But when you're in those moments, the only way you get there is being ambitious and wanting to be better every day and being mad about every mistake you make. Every rider I've talked to in your position, there's always a struggle because you're so ambitious and you have to be that good, where I think it's hard actually to enjoy it sometimes, because you're like, the work it takes to be here, I can't ever pat myself on the back completely. Did you ever struggle with that when you were racing?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it changed as my years went, as my years in professional racing went on. I mean, when I came in, it was like winning a race and a championship. And if anybody outside me didn't help in that area, I didn't want anything to do with them. You know, I was just like, it was all about that. It was number one. And, you know, then 2008, I mean, I think we can all remember that. It just, my world came crashing down on me.
Yeah.
And that was probably, honestly, that moment in my career was probably the biggest, the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because it brought balance to my life. It brought, it opened my eyes up, and it took years to kind of continue to see what was important and keep involving, but it was something that I realized racing didn't belong first place in my life. It was something that I did. It's not who I was. And to be able to separate the two, and then as you grow and got older, I mean, by the time I was midway through my career, I realized the influence that I could have on people and the fans and that stuff. So being able to recognize that and help. And then as I got really later into my career, it was realizing the position that I was in to, you know, obviously, you know, being able to work, you know, obviously, and you said it best. It's not bad to be ambitious and work hard and go after it, but don't let it completely consume your life where that it becomes everything. So later in my career, I realized the position that I was in and just being a leader, and not just for the sport but also my team and the people around me, and how people were feeding off of me to be better. And just, Eldon really woke me up to that stuff, and just being able to recognize that. And just, you know, for me, it wasn't about winning a race or a championship anymore. I mean, there was bigger things in life. And I think that today we're lacking in the area, especially these kids. And in my opinion, when you watch the sport, it's complete madness. I mean, everybody's freaking out because it's all about the championship, and there's nothing bigger that they're living for in their life, you know. And so, of course, when you get to that moment and it's everything you've been working for, and it's all the pressure and everything, it's all built up, and it's like, you know, it's hard to withstand through that pressure that you're, you know, reality are putting on yourself. And so just seeing the bigger picture in life and what was more important, and you know, and I've said it, and I've said on the podium and thank the Lord and everything like that, but my thing wasn't to be the best racer. My thing was, like, first and foremost, who's going to be in heaven, because I cared enough to help and share the word and share that with other people. And, you know, racing wasn't even second. I mean, my family was second. My time with my wife was second. You know, racing was so far down on the list that I think that would enabled me to just be able to, you know, when I stood up on the podium and everybody criticized me for, oh, he's feeling the pressure. And when I said, no, it's just a race. I mean, I think you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a race. And yeah. And I'm like, well, you know, but for me, I know that, you know, and so just being able to put things in perspective and, you know, see the bigger picture in life and what's really important. So, yeah.
It's funny at the Anaheim 1 press conference every year. Again, people are always saying, people always complain that the riders, they're like, why don't they talk more trash? We've been waiting all year. There's so much hype. And they all kind of try to have less hype and less pressure and try to make it low-key when the fans want it to be crazy. And what I can always tell is because there's enough pressure already, don't make it worse by saying, I'm going to win 10 races this year. I'm guaranteeing you I'm going to win this title. That you're looking kind of that physical, mental thing you're talking about. It's like all the riders are like, look, I'm trying to make this as easy on myself as possible. I'm not trying to ramp it up and put more pressure on.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And, I mean, the more I looked at it and my position and being in that position and everything, and it's like, I think it's just the riders trying to keep themselves calm. You know, it's not necessarily they're trying to tell you, they're trying to tell themselves that, what they're, you know. So it's, you know, but that's how heavy it is when it becomes, and there's, of course, there's a lot of time invested into it, yourself, your family, the team, there's money, there's so much effort on everybody's part, and yeah, you want to make the most of it, of course, but, you know, there's a good way to approach it too. So.
Yeah, when riders say, hey, it's just a dirt bike race, like you did, or, hey, my number one goal is to have fun, I think that angers people because they're like, no, it isn't. You're being paid millions of dollars. It's not a motocross race, and it's not to have fun. It's your job. But it's just a trick. to perform better.
Yeah.
You're saying that to make yourself ride better when you say, I'm just here to have fun. If you said, I'm here to smash everybody, you might ride worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that
all the time.
I think. Go ahead.
You were able to, in the moment, when you're the points leader, you would think, again, 8-year-old Ryan Dungey would say, man, if I was the points leader in Supercross, I'd be the happiest person on earth. But usually when riders are there, it's actually a somewhat miserable experience because you're looking over your shoulder and every moment could be your last. But you were able to enjoy your life during those 5 months or so when you'd be in the points leader in Supercross. You were able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, I'd rather have been in the points lead than chasing. I mean, of course, but it's all perspective. It's like, it's either that you're going to put I think, mentally that's where the mental toughness kind of comes in, and that's where perspective comes in. And it's like, it's so funny, the mind tricks that you'll play on yourself when you can't, when you don't know how to control it. And that's why as a rookie, I mean, you see a lot of mistakes because it's like, I remember I was like, I won my first race and that's like, well, I got to win the next one. And then you put all this, then there's the expectations and the pressures. And I mean, one of, the, expectations, they can create a lot of pressure or, but they also can create a lot of hope too. But it's like, being able to go through it, and sometimes you got to fail. Sometimes, it took me 2 times to, 2 really hard experiences to kind of learn that, but, and maybe more, but I mean, it's all perspective and I guess how you approach it and just being able to, when the thing about perspective is when you are in a position like that, and even in other areas in life, pressures you have to perform. When you see the bigger picture, it's easier to stay calm. But when you're in it and you don't have perspective and it's all or nothing, I mean, it's so, you're going to work yourself up to the point where you freak yourself out and you're all nervous and it's all or nothing. So I think that's what it was able for me, and just in my career, just being able to, like going into the last round and the enemy will fight you the hardest when you're the closest, and you'll play the most mind games with yourself when you're the closest to something, whether it's a breakthrough or whether you're ready to rise to that next level of being a better athlete or a rider or whatever that is. So I would just, it's just being able to fight those demons off, really,
Yeah, so do you think you 7 years earlier could have handled the points chase that you had last year, or did you need all that perspective and all that to be able to handle that? Because that was obviously about as tight and tense as a championship's going to get.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, if it was even 2015, I don't know if I could have handled that. It was something that I, took a lot of years to build up to and just be able to handle. It was hard. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is it's in that position, of course, like it wasn't easy. I mean, for me, it was one of the most hardest things I've ever had to face in my life and to go through. And then the months after, just trying to recover mentally and physically from something like that. Like I just wanted to sleep. Like it was, and I remember, I remember we got our Easter break and, we got to, we had a weekend off and it was really nice. Family came out to California, and we just had a really nice mellow weekend, and I had a great week at the test track. We found some things that helped us with going into the last 3 races. But I remember going to Seattle, and I thought to myself, like, this is going to be the hardest 3 weekends of my life, but don't give up and just be ready for it and just embrace it, because it'll be over in 3 weeks. You can lay down, you can lay on the couch, in 3 weeks it'll be done. Just fight, and it was the hardest 3 weeks, man. Gosh, especially the last week going up to Vegas, it was like, talk about the mind games start playing. Jeez.
Oh, even though at that point you had the points lead back, and it's like, well, it would be kind of difficult. I mean, anything can happen in racing, but it was kind of difficult mathematically for Tomac to get it. But it doesn't matter, huh? That's still 7 days of running through all the scenarios in your mind.
Well, the hard part with racing is you want to become a control freak and you want to control everything about everything. And that's just like the most stressful thing because you can't control the things you can't control, obviously. But so that's the thing. It's like, okay, well, man, what if I get a flat tire? No, don't think like that. You're not going to get a flat tire. And what if we have an engine? No, it's not, so you're just like things that you never thought about ever you think about. And you're just like, you got to be kidding me, So, but that's what I mean. Like that was one of the things I remember the most through my career was just like, you're the, when the enemy fights you the hardest, that's when you're the closest. So knowing that I was being fought so hard, I knew we were close to something, or hoped we were. So, yeah.
Did you know during that main event, like did it dawn on you, like what Tomac was trying to do? Like, oh wait, I see what he's doing here. Did you know that ahead of time? Did anyone think, hey, this could happen? Or did you have to unfold all that in your mind as it was happening on the track?
No, it was pretty clear. I mean, I think, especially in the beginning and, right away he went into, trying to clean me out. I'm like, oh boy, like this is going to be, so that was probably the best thing that could have happened for me because it kind of didn't anger me, but it did anger me, so, and it kind of kept me in the moment, like, no, you didn't, like, here we go. And so it kind of kept me in the moment, which was the best thing for me. But, I realized right away he's trying to slow up the race. And I mean, it all realistically, it all started in, East Rutherford, when with Marvin and he pulled over and let me win the race. And then obviously that really upset Cowie because she's so they didn't have a good night. So they were just looking to, do some damage and win. But, I don't, it is what it is. It's their approach. That's what they, went for. So, yeah, there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of invested. So it's people go for it. So, yeah. When Ryan Villapoto was ending his run, I mean, you could basically see he might as well have put the word "I need to retire" like as a tattoo on his forehead. I remember talking to him in like Houston, which is say like 5 rounds to go in 2014. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, what makes you even happy about being at these races anymore? And he couldn't even come up with an answer. And he's like, dude, don't print that. Don't. Well, you know how RV is. He's like, don't make me sound like an asshole, man. But you could tell he was just going through the motions, and even despite that, he was still winning, but he was not happy about any aspect of being there anymore. But I never got that same vibe from you going into last year. You seemed like you were still happy. I don't think you hate doing the work. So what was it? Was it the series being so tough, or was it that injury that you had in Colorado? I know that was a big shakeup. Because I don't think the work part, I didn't feel like you were that burned out on it. Maybe you were, but that's not the way I felt. No, I think, when I look at for me it was just simply, where it kind of started was 16. 16 was we won the Supercross championship, obviously, and then going into the outdoors, it was, something wasn't right. Like I knew something wasn't right. Mentally, I wanted to be there, but I couldn't get into it and I couldn't motivate myself. I didn't know how. I think like the simple word, just being human is just like I was tired. Like I was just mentally and physically exhausted and I don't know, how or why I got to that other than just constantly the races are starting to stack up. And at this point it's like 15 Supercross championship and 6 Supercross, Motocross, and now Supercross, and now we're going again for another. So it just there was never a break for me. We get a little bit of time off in the off season, but I'll get to that later. But so what happened in 16 was I was sitting on the line at Colorado, and I just was, like I said, I couldn't get into it. I don't know what was wrong, and I just was like, I was sitting on the gate to the point it was like, if my life depended on it, I could get into it. Like, fight or flight, you have to do it. Okay, I could do it. But if it didn't depend on it, it was almost just like, dude, something, I couldn't get into to go. Like, I didn't have that energy to just do it. And so, anyway, I don't know how to describe it other than just mental or, fatigue or burnout. But with that being said, I made you're not sharp. And that's the scary thing as a dirt bike racer, is that when when you're not 100% in, your mind's just, when your mind's not 100% there, I should say, it's a scary thing because things are happening so fast, and that's kind of what happened. I made a mental error, made a mistake, got kicked, and went, and that led to my neck injury. So that was hard. I mean, I said to Lindsay, I wasn't going to come back for the 17. I was going to be done, and but long story short, I was like, look, I have to do this, I have to move forward, choose faith over fear, and I did, and we moved forward and gave it our best, and so after I got a little break after 16, but 17 I kind of find myself through the same position. It was probably even a little bit more tougher for me, and found myself even more mentally tired than I was in 16, and it's just like, you know what, I'm not gonna, I know what happened when I put myself through that scenario before. I'm not going to do that again, and it's just not safe, and not safe for me. And I felt bad because it's like, okay, KTM's got me contracted, Fox, so everybody's contracted me to race all year, and it's just like I had to tell them, like, guys, that was all I had, and that was it. So I think for me the writing was on the wall. I think it started to show in my performances, especially in 17, just towards the later. Eli just started to get on this another level I couldn't compete at. I couldn't do. And not to mention, I would think so much about doing a rhythm section that these guys were doing, and it's like, there's no time to think that much. And if you think that much, it's just like, it's a little bit, you're too slow. And so, I mean, and I won't drag it out, but that was kind of that's what did it for me. But I can't help but wonder, it's just like, the thing that I'd like to really hone in on and talk to people about is just, we race and we race and we race. And, as a young kid, he's never going to tell you, no, I'm not going to race. He wants to race every single weekend, but 10 or 11 years goes by and especially as a 450 guy, you race, 8 months straight with a couple weekends off. And then I think what a lot of people forget is like how much riding we do during the week as well on top of that. So it just constantly adds up, and then we get a little bit of time off, and it's time to re-prep and do it all over again. And it's a great position to be in, but I think you're going to get a lot more longevity if you have less races and just being able to, I feel like there's two promoters here, that they want this, they want what's best for their sport, and they want what's best for their side, which is rightfully so. But the riders are getting caught in between the crossroads of it all, and they have no say, and there's nothing to be done. And, I don't want to talk about a bunch of problems. It's something like I want to be able to have more of a solution for. Yeah. But there's something that needs to be said and then to be done as well. Even if, people don't like it, because, I don't want to play the shoulda, coulda, woulda game, but maybe these riders coming up could get, 15 years. You could get 15 years out of a guy versus, 10 or 9 or 11, So, I sit here every day and I'm fine with moving on, but the one thing I'm faced with all the time is just like, I'm so young, I'm 28 years old, and it's done, it's over, and so it's really hard to accept, but I got to believe there's a plan. So, and it wasn't about the racing, it was just that, it's just a change. So.
Yeah, that's a strange situation, because I always thought, everything was good until that crash in Colorado was scary. But basically what I'm hearing is, so you're a guy who doesn't mind putting in the work. You're a guy who actually didn't overdo it when you were, say, 12 years old because you were stuck in the winter in Minnesota, and you and I have talked about this. You kind of came on late as an amateur, so you didn't get the burnout on the front side. You enjoyed doing the work, which is one of the hardest parts. And even still, it got to you. It wasn't just, oh, I crashed on accident, now I'm scared. You were already starting to feel something brewing, burnout-wise, before that even happened. That says a lot right there. And plus, you don't have a ton of injuries. Not only are you young, but it's not like you've had your knee operated on 9 times and you're like, this hurts every day. So, to me, you had like every reason for things to keep on going, but it's still even caught up to you. That's kind of a scary thought.
There's only two things I think that are going to stop a guy, and it's either an injury or just he's like, why did Ricky retire? I I mean, he maybe, you know, he'd won a lot and done a lot of good, but, you know, at 27 years old, there's like, gosh, there's got to be more in him, right? But,
yeah.
you know, when you go at that rate and that pace for that long and there's no breaks, and I mean, we're only human, you know, there's only so, you know, you need a break, you need time off. I mean, that's the body was wired, you know, you need to rest. And so anyway, it's just part of life. It's what it is. So
it's funny because 2 or 3 rounds into the Nationals last year, everyone all of a sudden started having problems. Like Tomac had a problem at Glen Helen, and Marvin got hurt. Anderson eventually got injured, and Baggett got injured. Everybody had their issues. And again, people were saying, many of us were joking, we were like, dude, if Dunge just showed up and kept on riding like he normally does, he probably would have won this one too. But you're basically saying that wasn't really on the table. Like, it wasn't going to happen. You weren't going to be able to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I might have had my problems too, you know, and I don't know, I mean, and it's definitely been an interesting season. Even last year in outdoors, now Supercross, it's been interesting to watch, but, yeah, it's been crazy. And then with the Triple Crown, I think the fans have definitely got some good drama there.
oh yeah. I don't know. You might have picked the right time. I don't know if that. I don't know if that was the type of scenario. For some riders, it's great. I don't know if that's your scenario right there, the Triple Crown. I like watching it, but I don't know if that works for you.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, watching it's cool for the fans, but as a rider, I don't know if anybody likes that. It's pretty hectic.
Now, help me. You're always so consistent. Help me. I believe this is a myth about Ryan Dungey, or maybe I'm wrong. Okay, You're always so consistent. You had, like, really the greatest podium percentage of anyone ever. So what we hear all the time is, hey, you know Dunge, if the win was there, he'd take it. But if second place was there, he'd take that too. He would take second. He'd take third. And I would always say, no, man, I've seen Dunge after seconds and thirds. He's not fist-pumping people. He's not like, yes, that's my plan. I'm happy to take a second place today. Like, I don't feel like you took the second place finishes as much as your record shows. I don't think when Villopoto was winning and you were finishing second, you were like, yeah, I'm up on the podium. That's all I want. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it was definitely hard. I mean, first is always when you win, when you've already won once, it's like that becomes the goal. That becomes the new standard. And I think, you know, I will say my last 3 years, I was really, if I did get second or third, I was happy because I knew it wasn't because of other things. I gave it my all. Before that, prior to that, with Villo, I knew inside, I wasn't happy, I was happy with like a second or third. I mean, I wanted to win, of course, but the reason I wasn't happy is because I felt like I lost, not, you know, if I could have won, I don't know how to word this, but it's like I was afraid to fail. Like, meaning maybe I wouldn't have won more. I don't know. Villopoto was definitely a tough competitor, but I lost because I was afraid to fail, and I didn't want to risk it. You know, I'd always kind of played it safe, and yeah, maybe to some extent the crowd, or not the crowd, but the people talking about that was right. But I developed this where, as a young rider, I'd won a lot, I'd done good, but at the same time, then it became, well, I want to win again, but I was always living one step too far ahead of myself, and then I just became afraid to fail. So once I was able to kind of recognize that at the end of 2014, then it was able to kind of come back and you know, I put it all out there, you know, within good, you know, riding smart and in control, but I put it all out there, I felt. So if I got second, I was okay with that. I didn't want to get second, but, you know, I wanted to win, but if I didn't, I didn't beat myself up, I guess, either as much.
But you were earlier, prior to 2015.
Yeah, I would say Supercross, and then halfway through outdoors, you know, and I reached out to some psychiatrists and some psychologists, you know, some mental coaches and stuff like that, really? And they really kind of helped. Yeah, they helped get me on track, and I wish I would have done that stuff kind of earlier, because for me it was I always felt like almost like well, something's wrong with me. I can't show weakness, and I think that happens a lot in our sport. It's like everybody wants to have it together all the time, And I finally was like, you know what? Maybe something's wrong with me. I need to reach out. And it cleared my thoughts. We tackled problems, and I moved forward and made progress. And it didn't take a lot of time either, I tell you.
Really? Like it was that effective quickly?
Yeah. And it's great because, being able to talk through it was, you don't want to talk about your fears, you don't want people to think of you, so, once I did that, and there was actually a cool, Kevin Love did on the Players Tribune, he did a whole thing about how he had a panic attack and what it led to, but it was actually quite, that would be something to read for people, because I read that and I was like, it's so true, because you just hold it in and everybody tells you, no, just shove it down, you're fine, be strong, and it's just like there's these hidden things that you don't feel like you can talk about, and if you could just get out and talk about them, you'd be a totally different person and moving forward with much stronger. So
you talked about Alden helping so much on the mental side. Is this literally from like conversations or things he's saying, or is it just the program he puts together puts you in that kind of mental state? Like, what is it about that helped you there? And obviously these other psychologists help too, but what is it about his program or him personally that helped you on that mental side?
For me, I think when I look at the whole picture, physically there's a good good program there. Mentally, there's a good program, but I think what a lot of people are missing is the spiritual side. Maybe it scares a lot of people to hear that and say it, but it's the truth. Being able to, to put God first in your life and to strengthen your faith and to grow and accepting the challenges, and it's all right there, and in the book. So being able to talk through him and just he strengthened me. He made me stronger. He helped me see things in a different way and approach things better. And he was one of the biggest mentors in my life. There's very few, but him being one of the main guys. And he was a mentor to me even before I worked with him. The guy was just incredible. So, I think that was cool. And just being able to, go through that together as a team, just as we worked together, you can say it, but we were good, close friends and feeding off each other and helping each other grow and making each other stronger. So just being able to, to be strong spiritually as well, which, the mental side and how you approach things and just being able to fight off the demons and stuff like that, for me that was huge.
Were you still in that point, or had you matured enough then where you were not having to be talked off the ledge, or were there times you were freaking out over something and he had to come and say, no man, again, big picture, it's only dirt bike racing, you can only control so much. Did he have to do some of that?
Oh yeah, of course. Motocross was like motocross fights for that position in your life where it don't belong, which, it doesn't belong number one in your life, but it wants to be. And so, of course, when I would get wrapped up into it, he was that guy who kept me accountable and just being, and people need that. I think that's one thing I think I overlooked going through a lot of my career, was just how you need other people to keep you accountable. And Eldon was one of those guys for me, and just, of course, I'd be freaking out about something, and he like, we could have a discussion, and it's like, oh, geez, yeah, we're good now. I just lost my cool there. So, it was awesome. That was something really special, especially in such a intense in situations of the sport that it gets to. So it was good to have somebody there and to be there for me.
Well, it actually sounds like it all ties in. Like, you have to be, as you said, not afraid to fail, willing to be open, willing to share some of these fears or anxieties that you have first.
Yeah.
And then you find out quickly, actually saying it just unlocks all these doors. But you have to get to that point first. And as an athlete, it's like the number one goal is to not let anyone know that you have any of these issues or anxieties. It's got to be tough.
Yeah. Admitting it feels good too,
Yeah.
Your weaknesses,
Yeah.
So.
And even the fact that you're even sharing it now, like, obviously you're not racing now, so it doesn't matter quite as much, but still, there's some people that are probably going to hold stuff into the day they go and are never going to hit some of this stuff. I never talked to a psychologist. What, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's life's interesting, I tell you. It's just, crazy. Stuff you learn, figure it out, what you go through. It's just, and it's kind of nice because, I've been talking to some friends and it's like, no, that doesn't just end here. You're going to come up on other stuff, and that the stuff you went through now is only preparing you for what's to come. And you're like, oh, geez, So
yeah.
life's, it's full of challenges and tough moments. So.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that June of last year of just wanting to sleep all the time, but that's not going to go on forever.
No, just I realized it was just me recovering for what's next.
Right. And
yeah.
Do you have any fear, by the way, because you're so young and you're so programmed actually to be disciplined and put in work? Some guys, it sends them totally sideways because they don't have anything to use that focus on, and then they end up getting focused on the wrong stuff, or it just completely just messes them up mentally. They don't even know what to do. So were you worried about that at all, or did you talk to people about that? Like, hey, I need to make sure that this focus I'm used to having, I got to make sure I apply it to something before it goes sideways on me. Is that something you were worried about?
No, I think I've had a lot of good discussions, and all of them have kind of led to, or a lot of them have just kind of helped with, the things and the challenges and everything that I've experienced through racing. And even the drive and the discipline and, the motivation of some things, just how I approached racing, I've learned to be able to, how to take that and apply that to the next chapter in life, whether it's my marriage, whether it's, the next career decision, whatever that is. And so I think there was a lot of things that I learned from racing, motocross and the sport the challenges and the life lessons I've learned that, it wasn't for nothing, it's to apply that. So, but it's putting it into play too now. It's, and so, just like I was committed to, on the track when I'm, my lap times and every time I approach the track, yeah, that's what I have to be now in my marriage. And I'm just giving you examples that, where I can apply that. So absolutely. Those things I don't want to let that all go to waste because it was pretty valuable.
I'm going to pay like the ultimate compliment here. Like, it's cool that you're looking to eventually have this program where you're maybe giving back or explaining things to young riders because, like, you've won a lot of races. There's other guys that have won as many or more or about the same. You're up there. Maybe other guys have won. Ricky's won even more, right? Or McGrath's won more Supercross races. But the one thing I'll always say about you is, like, if I were to, like, my kid's 3 years old. He likes riding. He's getting into it. Like, if you were to just pick hey, this would be a good career for someone to have. You didn't get hurt a lot. We didn't hear a whole lot of drama of, huge burned relationships and horrible things that you had to deal with for you or other people at you. You didn't get hurt a lot. You won. You were successful. Hey, you made some money. I'm like, see, this is proof that it can go well because, man, at this level, the way this sport is now, you hear so many stories of, yes, they got there, but the sacrifices that it took, it almost might not have even been worth it. So I always think about, but the Dungey career, I think any parent would look at and be like, we'd take that. That shows us there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that's worth going for. So good on you.
Well, no, I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. Other guys, man, they got there, but that mountain will take a lot from you. And I'm sure it did you in different ways, but you got out okay.
Yeah, no, it's, gosh, it's, if I just, all this stuff I'm just thinking about that you didn't know about as a kid, and then you get there and you're like, wow, it was, as a kid you see, the flying to the races, the factory equipment, you people working on your bikes, you're in a semi, you see all the glitz and the glamour of it, and then when you're in it, you're like, well, I oversaw this one, So
well, that's what I mean. That's the ambition. Yeah. The ambition can get you because, while you're there, you think you should enjoy that factory bike. But if you didn't win every race ever on it, it's kind of hard to be like, this is awesome. Because instead, you're just worried about the result. So I can see how you forget what that's going to be like when you're actually in it until you're actually there.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad sometimes.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Last thing I'll say is just like if I had to, to even the kids coming up, it's like I wish they knew the weaknesses that I went through and the things that I had overcome and the doubt that I had as a kid because, it wasn't. At times I'm like, is something wrong with me? Like what, and to not that I take full credit of overcoming. I have a lot of good people around me and stuff, but just to be able to keep pursuing it. And that you have hurdles, you have the things you overcome. And I definitely wasn't the strongest guy mentally by any means, so I just, thank the good Lord, huh? Jeez.
One way or another, you made it happen. You didn't have to burn too many people to get there, so that's even better. or ruin your body with 15,000 surgeries or something either.
Yeah. Thankfully.
All right. Well, this has been phenomenal. I really appreciate the candor. Hopefully people learn something from this, which is even more than I thought we'd get out of it. Yep.
Well, I appreciate the time, Jason. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Keep in touch. Thanks, Ryan. So that's it. Wow, a fantastic conversation with Ryan Dungey. Where do you even start with a discussion on that? Over and over, mentioning the mental hurdles, the frustrations, how he learned to deal with that. A lot of candor and very candid from Ryan, who, usually has been a pretty guarded rider throughout his time. But now I think he wants to take those lessons and teach the future generations with it. So he's going to be a lot more open in the future. I'm glad that we were one of the first to talk to him. Honestly, as soon as he announced that retirement in May, he kind of went into hiding. As he said, he just wanted to sleep. I never really had the chance to talk to him about the Vegas Supercross and how he was feeling before and after that. So really cool that he was able to do that. And also still cool that he's at the races and fans can still get autographs and chat with him too. So I request you help out Ryan in supporting St. Jude's Children's Hospital. You can do that with the efforts that are coming for the Minneapolis Supercross. Again, if you follow your favorite riders on social media, they'll give you all the information there when they're ready to roll that out. Try to participate, if it's at all possible, in Ryan's Minnesota Major charity ride in July. And for the less charitable efforts, just the folks that help make this happen, again, we thank Yoshimura for backing these podcasts. 63 years of research and development with 4-stroke exhaust systems. Check them out for your ATV, dirt bike, or street bike at yoshimura-rd.com. And here at Racer X, we have a new magazine that we're just putting out, Racer X Illustrated. Each issue completely exclusive, different info than you'd see on our website or social media channels. I like to call the issue we just put to bed the Florida issue. Tons of information on races taking place down there during the annual Daytona Bike Week. A lot of insider stuff. So you'll enjoy that. And also a really cool article from far away from Florida on Jeffrey Hurlings and Antonio Caroli. And we also have a new spring line of Racer X wear. So go to racerxbrand.com. Free shipping if you order more than $40 worth of stuff. We got it all. Backpacks, t-shirts, hats. racerxbrand.com. I guarantee you had no idea that website existed until right now. Okay, that's it for this week's show, except for one more part. Here it goes. Podcast. 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 Podcast, 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 podcast.